Hello. Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Kensley webinar. So it's nice to see you all here. So it's 11:04 now. So let's go ahead with the program. So the discussion that we'll be having today will be on the topic of empowering teachers, proven strategies for cultivating a positive classroom environment. And joining us today will be Ms. Sanuja and Ms. Rukshana Hassen. Sanuja Goonetilleke, just to give you an idea, she holds an MA in education from the Harvard University, USA, and Ms. Rukshana Hassen also holds an MA in education from the University of Nottingham, and she also happens to be head of school at Iman Academy. And Ms. Sanuja, she is the head of academics at Kensley Graduate School. So the topics that we'll be discussing today will be on the pedagogical strategies for creating a supportive and inclusive learning environment, and also we'll be touching on the techniques for promoting a growth mindset among students. And we'll also be talking a bit about the best practices fostering a sense of community and collaboration. In addition to that, we'll also be talking on ways to ensure student engagement and motivation. So this will be pretty much the core topics on which we'll be focusing. So once we are done with the Q&A session, the participants, they can go ahead with any questions that they might have, and they can just voice out their opinions, or they can just, put out questions so that the session can be more interactive. So let's start with Ms. Rukshana. So, Ms. Rukshana?
Yes, hello, good morning
Hello,
to you
yes,
all.
Good morning. So, Ms. Rukshana, I have a few questions for you.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so my first question for you will be, what strategies can teachers use to build a positive classroom culture or a safe environment that promotes student engagement and motivation?
Lot there in that question. Thank you for the question, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm really honored to be here with you all on a Sunday morning. The question itself is promoting quite a bit of positivity. Now, in the situation that we are all in this country and even the globe, I think we're all facing calamities and facing crisis after crisis. And to human beings, that has to be something that we are prepared for, or we prepare ourselves or invest time and energy to prepare to be able to face. And as Sri Lankans, I think we are all quite positive in terms of finding the blessings, finding the positive side of things, and just, partying, keep going. That sort of an attitude or willpower, if I may say, is quite there. But we must remember that everybody is struggling in some way or the other. Now, when it comes to a teacher and student relationship, it is, I think, one of the most precious relationship that you will have, because day in, day out, from that 5 days a week, hopefully just 5 days a week, but even more than that, the interaction between teachers and students are moments that really make everything happen. And when you look at it in that mindset, okay, that positivity, that it's an opportunity that you get as a teacher to have these moments with these students, make it something that will be happy, that will be positive, that will have hope, and that will give this energetic and positive vibes towards those learning moments. Now, without this preparation or platform laid to the readiness to learn, it's very difficult for most of us to just, walk in and start off the lesson and just expect the target to be achieved. All right. So to this culture that we're talking about, okay, culture is rich. Culture has to be rich. Without a culture, there is no growth and there is no enjoyment or fun or sense of belonging. So this culture needs to be created from day one. And even if it is not to do with day one, when you walk into the classroom and when they look at you as a teacher, in my belief, positivity comes through your body language, your facial expression. All right. The smile that you have on your face itself goes a long way in creating that culture the moment you step into the classroom. Now, it's not easy. As teachers, we have our own lives. We have our own burdens that we carry day in, day out. Okay. But it is our responsibility that when we have taken on this amazing profession of teaching, we need to make our mind up to make sure that whatever that comes our way, we work, or the work that we have, the time of work, the moments in the classroom are something that we step into, leaving aside everything else that may trouble us. Okay. And that might be a superhero quality. All right. Well, you might want to consider it that way, but that's what you do. You wear your cape. Okay. And you walk in. And you walk in with a smile no matter what. You walk in with an energy that you want to, it's like a viral. It needs to spread in your classroom and make sure that itself makes the children ready to learn. All right. So these rapport activities that you can do, you can't just walk in. You see, if you have a 40-minute to 1 hour, whichever the time frame that you plan on spending in this so-called classroom, you need to plan it. You need to make sure the first 5 minutes, what exactly you are trying to convey for them to expect the rest of the hour to be like. The target, the goal of this session, all right? So the way you smile, the way you attire yourself, the way you smell, the way you feel, I believe goes as one of the firsts that we must do as practitioners, as professional practitioners, okay? Secondly, readiness to learn has to be also something that you invest time in. You may come saying, I need to finish this concept today. I need to finish up the lecture on this particular concept so that they may be able to answer the questions, target for examination, so curriculum, so on and so forth. But wait a second, before you get there, just find out and invest some time to make sure that your students, your learners are ready to learn. And to capture that attention and to make sure that readiness exists, you must do these activities, the rapport activities, to create this readiness. All right. And then the safe environment that you asked me, okay, safety comes with confidence that you are a mentor who will give them the opportunity to speak, let their voices be heard. And that means you need to listen as a teacher. You need to listen more than you actually talk. Can you believe that? I mean, the lecturing mode, the rote, the delivering that you do through your speech has to be way less than the amount where you make your students speak. And to do that, you need to plan. You need to empathize. You need to be able to find out what they have to say about the topic, about the discussion, about the problem that you need to solve, or the issues that are there and that need to be solved. Because every concept that we're learning, okay, be it education, be it in terms of science or in terms of everything is a problem to solve. And to be able to critically think, you need more than just one person talking there, more than just one person perspective. All right. So this safe environment needs to be earned, or the fact that the children feel safe and you feel confident to be there depends on how much you respect your students and the students respect you. Work on that. Work on gaining this respect and work on giving this respect. And when you do that, there's a lot that changes in the equation, and pretty much overnight. Okay, so these qualities, or these intentionally making time for these to first be done, will make sure that it will promote the engagement that you require from the student as well. When you ask a question, or rather when you teach them how to ask questions, teach them or make them or trigger them to ask questions, this is engagement. If you expect them to sit in one place and listen to you passively talking most of the time, none of this can be achieved, in my opinion. So there are plenty of such strategies, depending on the subject that you're teaching, depending on the whether it is a vast area or whether it's just a simple concept. There are ways in which first you must make sure you make them ready to learn, and you are most energetic to come and love teaching what you're teaching. You can't do that if you don't have passion towards your job. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rukshana. That was insightful. So moving on to my next question, which will be for Ms. Sanuja. Yeah, Ms. Sanuja, the question I have for you is, what do you think is the role that social and emotional learning can play in the classroom?
Thank you, Adila. So I first want to check if they all can hear me. Sometimes I have sound issues. Okay, great. So social emotional learning, it's a phrase that has been gaining a lot of attention in the education world in the last couple of years, right? And so it comes up, every time you hear these trends or these phrases or these buzzwords coming up in education, right? And a lot of teachers are told, maybe you're told or asked to incorporate social emotional learning in the classroom, so I want to first kind of demystify it a little bit and then talk about how we can actually support students' social emotional learning in classrooms and also outside of classrooms. And what I will say will, of course, also connect with what Ms. Rukshana has been saying as well, because everything she has said is amazing and highly relevant to good teaching and good learning. And good teaching and good learning is, in a way, really what social emotional learning is about. Because so when you take the scientific approach of social emotional learning, it's looking at the psychological aspects of what the students are gaining from their learning experiences, right? It's not only the subject content or the examinations, the assessments, any of that, but it's also how they're perceiving the teaching and the learning, how they're experiencing it, how they're responding to it, and how it's really helping them along with their overall life skills development, right? So social emotional learning, contrary to what some people might be thinking, it is not only in the school, it is in the home, it is in society. All these parts of a student's life have to kind of come together to create this experience. But since we are talking about teaching and classrooms, I'll focus on that. So social emotional learning is roughly divided into these 5 domains of a student's overall well-being, right? Things, skills like self-awareness, interpersonal relationships, intrapersonal relationships, and so on, growth mindset, all of these factors. So as Ms. Rukshana was saying, when you are looking to make sure that you can help the students to inculcate these values in themselves and these skills, so you have to kind of, as Ms. Rukshana mentioned, you have to um, make sure that the students are getting an experience that is positive, as Ms. Rukshana said, and also oriented towards learning and developing themselves, right? So we can't always stay in a static position and never learn or grow. So students progress from grade to grade. Similarly, if a student is having, suppose they're having an issue with managing their emotions, maybe some students who are reacting very strongly in classroom and making it very difficult for the others also to kind of get a good experience, right? Then the teachers can first try to observe without judging. So this is very similar to what Ms. Rukshana was saying about listening more than we speak in a sense, because you have to pay attention, you have to be mindful of the student or the students, right, who are having certain difficulties. You have to first pay attention, gather that information. And I don't mean, going to the other students or sometimes and asking, what is the student doing and things like that, but you can observe and you can gather information from observing just by that. You gather the information and then you make some decisions about possible strategies or plans that you can utilize. And then you start to kind of try it one way, try it another way, see what works, and then act based on those approaches. So it's really a step-by-step process to try and make sure that the student's getting the help that the student needs. There's another part of social emotional learning that I mentioned. As I mentioned, it's not only in the classroom. The term is all, of course, used in classrooms and teachers are told as well, right? But you can encourage parents also, right? Supposing you have any interactions with the parents, any parent-teacher meetings, school events, things like that. The school, including the management as well as the teachers, can encourage the parents to also think about these things, right? Is my child being listened to at home? Is my child able to express himself or herself at home, getting those social opportunities with their siblings or their neighbors or friends? So all of these things kind of work together, the school, the parents, and the community. So as teachers, I think because teachers are looked, especially in our culture, they're looked as kind of the experts or the authorities in terms of raising the children. I think teachers also have the responsibility, yes, to foster these overall developmental skills in the children, but also to encourage the community and the parents and the families to look at these aspects of a child's development in addition to their academic development as well. Thank you, Adil.
Thank you, Sanuja. Thank you for the wonderful explanation on the role that teachers play in fostering social and emotional learning in the classroom. So back to Mr. Rukshana. Hello? Yeah, Ms. Rukshana, did you get my question?
No, I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Okay, so the question I have for you is, how can teachers involve students in decision making and creating classroom rules to foster a sense of ownership and responsibility? So what's your take on this, Ms. Rukshana?
Good question. Right, so decision making is one of the most difficult or rather challenging activities that schools have to take time to teach children how to do. All right, so it doesn't fall under a category of a subject. It falls under every subject teacher, not just the class teacher as well. Decision making is a trainable skill, an attainable skill, but we must be able to do intentional activities to teach children how to decide, how to choose, how to evaluate in a positive way, so that you can take the right decision. Now, whether it is the right decision or not, we cannot tell, and we cannot guarantee. But what we need to teach them is that when you make a decision, you stick to it no matter what, right till the end. Keep persevering, and whatever the outcome may be, you will be happy to learn from it. Okay. Now, involving students in the decision-making processes. Now, what are these decisions that students have to make on a daily basis or in their lives, a student life, if you take, what are these decisions that they have to make? Well, the primary decision that they need to first make is, am I going to learn or not learn? Am I here to learn or not learn? Should I learn or not learn? What should I learn or not learn? Right? I need to decide. I'm here. Why am I here? I mean, I often ask the students, tell me what you want to learn today. Here are some of the choices. Choose. Out of the 3 concepts that I am responsible in delivering to you, I would like you to choose today what you would like to learn. Now, the moment you ask that question, the engagement starts happening, right? They, instead of putting something on the board and saying, okay, read it, or presenting a slide and say, this is what we're going to learn. No, wait, give them a choice. The moment you give them a choice, the heads, the thoughts, it's working, the mind is working, where they are trying to make the choice to learn, right? That is one. Secondly, these classroom philosophies, right, in terms of behavioral issues that you may face depending on which age group you're teaching, okay? These classroom rules cannot be something teachers make for the students. It needs to come from them. Why? Because if you do empathize and take it through the angle of a student, they need to be able to relate to the rules. If they don't relate to the rules, they cannot stick to them. It's not going to happen. It's just something that you're going to keep on wah about, okay? But it's not going to make change. So they need to relate it. They need to, for example, okay, you have to ask them, say, if you have a question, a simple thing, if you have a question, put your hand up, or if you have something to say, put your hand up. Because, you know, when everybody starts talking or everybody starts saying things, it's quite a chaotic situation. So you have this rule. Now, instead of doing that, you will ask them, all right, this is a problem area that we are all facing. There's quite a bit of chaos, lots of voices at the highest tone, fluctuating voices. What do you think we should do in order to make sure that there is peace in the classroom, that it's a noiseless environment, and what you or each of you are going to say is very important to me, right? So for me to be able to hear that, and for you to be able to hear what your peer says and respect what they say, shall we figure out a mechanism as to what we should do, right? Now, the moment you put the ball on their side of the court, you will make them think. You will make them critically analyze what it might be. Plus, you're also empowering them to be in control, right? And when they are in control, they are ready to deliver way better than when you are in control. All right. So rules to foster a sense of ownership and responsibility comes out of your confidence in giving them the decision-making power, giving them some kind of authority to take control of the chaos or take control of the gray areas that lie even in the subject matter or in terms of behavioral objectives, whichever it is, this needs to be achieved. Now, for students where, you know, the education system itself gives all the answers to the questions. Here is the question. You take a past paper, you take a marking scheme, you get an examiner's report, everything is given out, right? It's all, there's nothing much of a critically thinking that they need to do when everything is dished out. It's called rote learning. But the same thing, when you make them think and come up with an answer, it's called lifelong learning. You don't memorize it. It comes from within. It comes from thinking. It comes from problem solving, right? So this system is there. It should be there in any learning environment, whether it be university, whether it be a preschool, even at that very tender age. You need to make them think, and you will be amazed at the kind of responses that you get. Because as a creation, the human mind is made in such a way that it can problem solve, that it can come up with, because you see, it's an age of the AI, the artificial intelligence, where the machines are taking over, right? But believe me, nothing can substitute a human mind. And that can be proven only if we use it, right? If we don't use it, those machines are way more superior. The problem is we have stopped using it. The problem is our education system has not enabled us to use it, right? So here it is. We teachers have that power, okay? We teachers have that ability to empower our learners to think for themselves. So stop a bit, don't give the answer, make them think, give them clues, or ask them to problem solve in order to make these decisions that will help their future, even after school, even after university, in life itself, all right? To be able to equip themselves in good decision-making skills, we need to start here in the classroom. We need to empower them to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rukshana, on those useful pointers regarding classroom management, tuning out the chaos, and also getting ahead in the age of AI. Thank you so much. So again, my next question will be to Ms. Sanuja, and I think this will probably be one of the most important questions probably. It's about the role of feedback in improving teaching. It's quite a weighty question, I believe.
Thank you, Adila. Yes, feedback. So the word feedback, right? Normally in teaching and learning, we as teachers, administrators, we are the ones usually giving the feedback, right? Normally via test marks or comments on what the students have done. As I mentioned before, the parent-teacher meetings, those type of things, or even something as simple as in a classroom, right? If a student, just let's imagine a scenario where there is a student who is very clever. And so, it's kind of obvious that maybe they know more than the other students and they're not shy about it also. So I'm just imagining a scenario, right? So they are kind of giving all the answers, or they're making it very clear that, they are progressing faster than the other students or something like that. And then the teacher will say something like, oh, we know that, stop showing off or something like that. Even that type of a comment is also feedback in a sense, right? Because it's kind of indicating to the rest of the students, as well as this particular student, that this is how the teacher is kind of perceiving the student's behavior, right? And it's giving feedback on the kind of ways that you're expected to behave in the classroom as a student, right? Because then maybe that student, I mean, I'm not sure, right? Everyone reacts differently, but supposing they think, oh, I should keep quiet and I should disengage from the classroom, I should just stop bothering anymore and just, stay in the corner and not attract attention to myself. And then the other students are thinking, oh, I'm so jealous of this student, or some other example like that. So I'm just imagining scenarios here, but we can all kind of imagine such scenarios playing out. So another way of looking at giving feedback in this instance, right? Um, it's more like commentary, but as I mentioned, feedback can come in many forms. So similar to what Miss Rukshana was saying before, right? Instead of the teacher always having to be the one who makes these decisions, makes these judgments, right? Um, Giving feedback in another way, in an indirect way, right? Supposing, okay, and you talk to this particular student who is cleverer or faster or more engaged even than the other students, right? We all have, especially in online classrooms also, there's always one or two students who is always speaking. Try and see, okay, can you share to the classroom a little bit about what you think about this, or why you think it's interesting, or why you came to that answer. So that's giving a sense or an idea, right? A type of feedback to the rest of the classroom also, that we are in a process of helping each other learn. So that's, even verbal commentary can be feedback. And so I spoke about an instance of a teacher giving feedback to the student or to the students, right? But there are so many ways in which, aside from test marks and aside from commentaries and, how the teacher interacts too, like in that relationship, teacher to student, you can look at student to teacher. So this is the most important type of feedback in improving teaching practice, right? So there are many, many ways that we can obtain feedback from students, from parents, from our superiors in administration, from other teachers as well. So let's think about ways that students can give us feedback. Obviously, there is a direct method, right, of handing out a survey, an anonymous survey, asking the student to write, what did you learn at the end of this session? Maybe the student learned something that is completely outside of the content in the subject matter, right? Maybe they learned something about themselves. Maybe they were thinking about something, and somehow what you were teaching helped them to make those connections in their own mind. So you can ask at the end of a session, a simple question, what did you learn? And then, as Miss Rukshana mentioned, the student can make the decision or the choice of telling you or sharing with you what they learned, because you're not asking them, what did you learn about fractions today? What did you learn about this chapter in history today? To kind of test, okay, were they paying attention? Because as I mentioned, maybe they learned the subject matter or something else, right? You can also give them, as I mentioned, surveys, questionnaires, things like that, to ask about their experience. You can ask them to rate things with colors or emojis to make something based on the experience, particularly if there are younger students. But also, without even asking, there are ways to obtain students' feedback, right? So if you're involved in in-person teaching, which I firmly believe is the best way, uh, you can always gauge things from the students' facial expressions, body language, are they looking disengaged, disinterested, and without even asking them a word about what feedback they have for you. If they're looking confused, all kinds of things you can tell from that nonverbal communication. Online teaching is very difficult, and here in our context, it's mostly via Zoom or MS Teams. Sri Lanka is not at a point in terms of education and technology where we can teach every student with AR or VR or anything like that. Maybe we might be, maybe a few schools are, but just speaking overall, most of us are doing what we are doing now, right? Teaching on Zoom, teaching on WhatsApp, even MS Teams. So as I had alluded to earlier, right? So if there's only one or two students who is always giving all the answers, that probably means that maybe the others are either not paying attention or just not grasping anything, not gaining anything out of the experience. So that's the kind of useful feedback that you can have. And personally, I have had that feedback, right? Because when I had taught previously, I thought that everyone was kind of understanding everything at the same pace and the same way, but turns out that only a few were. So, that's a way of getting feedback without ever asking for it as a teacher. So how do you improve teaching practice based on feedback? So when you kind of understand where everybody is, you get an understand, as I mentioned, from gathering information, whether by directly asking or by observing again and just paying attention and seeing what's working and what's not. That's how you can use feedback. Use feedback as the information that you gather in order to try things in a different way. See what works eventually. Something will work. So you have to try different strategies to see how you can improve your teaching practice based on the feedback that either you ask for or which you kind of automatically get just by observing and paying attention to what is going on. There's another aspect of feedback as well that I would like to touch on, right? And this really depends on interpersonal relationships, school culture, organizational culture, your own personal preferences. You can always ask some other teachers of yours, like your colleagues, to come and observe you. That's another way of getting feedback, right, on teaching practice. And this is again a very personal kind of choice because you're really opening yourself up to being assessed in a way. So, you know, maybe it doesn't work for everybody. Or maybe even you ask a friend or someone you know to just come and sit in. Because a teacher cannot always have their eyes on everything moving, right? Because it's a lot of things to coordinate, a lot of things to think about. So if you feel like an extra pair of eyes can be helpful, that is also another method of obtaining feedback in order to improve your teaching practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanuja, for the interesting take on actually your feedback on the role of feedback in improving teaching from your personal references and experience. So moving back to Ms. Rukshana, your question would be one that is relevant to the times. So you were just talking about the age of AI. So in reference to that, this question is in a similar vein. How can teachers effectively incorporate technology and digital resources into their teaching to enhance student learning and engagement? What's your opinion on this?
All right. There's a lot. There's a lot on that particular topic. Yes, it is definitely the trending question. It is here to stay, and it is how we adapt and how we embrace it that will spell out how it will help us or it will be a threat to us. Okay. So you see, to effectively incorporate technology does not mean simply taking your classroom into Zoom or taking your whiteboard and, carrying out a Zoom or a Google Classroom session. Now, especially when the pandemic hit us and when education had to, or the schooling had to be transferred into this, the laptop screen. And we, at that time itself, we need to have stopped and thought, wait a second, am I just going to put that camera on and continue with my explanation? Or am I going to adapt, innovate, and be creative in the way that I use technology? Okay, so now to effectively incorporate technology, or what are these digital resources that are just at our fingertips, would mean that you have to invest time to go and seek these avenues. All right. Because without knowing, without understanding this age of gaming, the gaming culture, the trends that these days the teenagers are being drawn towards. Okay, what is the technical detail behind this trend that they are drawn to? What is gamification? What is this digital platform that they are so amazed about. All right. These are the questions you must first start asking. And when you do that, what will happen is you will go and look for the back end, the psychology that will shift as a result of this digital age. What is so fast paced now? Why is everything a crash course? Why is everything, the pace has increased? Why? And when you ask why, you will go towards a place where the answers lie. And that area might be, unfamiliar to us, because when we had our education and when we had our teacher training, it didn't exist, right? Now, suddenly, it is all over. And that means you have to use your intuition. You have to use your own, willpower, the grit that I am going to somehow adapt. I am going to find and be on top of this. Now, this confidence only will come the moment you are so confident of being the human being that you are, right? Because like I said before, the human mind is amazing, amazing creation. And your confidence in this matters, right? So I think, where robots are going to come into our classroom, like Sanuja said, this effective peer evaluation, another human being in your classroom and looking at you and telling you, giving you feedback of what you can do better, is really important. And that is why you also can grow, because you see, if you're going to be shut down and say, no, I'm going to be here, this is where I am, and everything I'm doing has to be the best, I can't handle this criticism or constructive criticism, I'm not open to it. The moment you have that negative mindset, the moment you will stagnate. All right, so technology here has come to test you. And this test you have to take on with a lot of confidence, and the confidence can come through experimentation. Go and see how you can teach math in a way that will involve automation, right? What is this automation that has come in the field of education? How can I save my time as a teacher? Now, as teachers, forever we are running out of time. Forever, there's so much to do and so little time. All right. When you have this, technology is your savior, right? Technology is at your fingertips. Take it, use it to efficiently put where you need to put things and automate certain things that you have to sit and manually keep doing. Right? This is possible. This is possible. This is possible not through, investing a lot of money and all that. You don't have to worry about that. It's there for free. It is there for free. You just need to go and seek these avenues to use. Applications are available. All right. These applications can actually correct the papers for you. It can arrange your data, these marks, this score sheet, this feedback that Sanuja was talking about is all something that can be automated. So that this data can come and show you where you need to improve and where your students need to improve, how much more you need to do, how can I add 10 more marks to this forever 60 that I'm getting in this subject? Okay, how can I get to that 10 marker that I'm avoiding? So this feedback that you take, you use artificial intelligence, you use technology tools. I mean, recently I'm being awed by what Google tools can come and, change your life about. This collaboration, this word called collaboration that you can do using technology takes you to any part of the world, to interact with teachers from all over the world, trying to do the same thing that you are doing. This networking itself can go to levels that you cannot imagine, and make your practice a much more perfect one through technology. Okay, use these collaborative tools. Get to, even with your students, you have a document, get the students to come and work on your document. Get them to give their comments on their document, make the slides as you watch them do it, as you give feedback through technology. This is not difficult. You see, the mentality can change. The moment it changes, you will just feel empowered by this thing called technology. But if you don't look at it positively, it's definitely threatening. Okay, it's definitely threatening. You will feel as if you're losing what you always had. The kind of, you know, confidence that you built thus far, and the kind of personality, or the as you teach, everything will come crumbling down and tumbling down if you do not find what is on the other side, that that is being controlled by something beyond a human. All right, something huge. It may look huge, it may look threatening, it may look scary, but technology is actually here to help you. Take it, figure these things out, go and make sure that you organize yourself and your time with these teaching tools that technology has to offer. And once you do that, I mean, it is an extensive workshop actually for me to be able to show you, these are the apps, these are the ways you can handle it. This is the way it is itself. But these resources are available for free of charge. You just need to invest time, or believe me, your students are going to be way on top of you. All right, you don't want that. I mean, it's good that they are going to a place where, you know, it's going to be something that they're embracing with positivity, but you are their mentor. Okay, you should be their role model. You need to look very positive with regards to using this technology, and that way the equation still is balanced. If not, this imbalance that's going to come will definitely not make you feel great. Okay, so let's look at it positively, and get to these platforms where you use these collaborative tools and become so much more richer than you are right now.
Thank you, Ms. Rukshana, on the insightful explanation and the detailed and insightful explanation on technology versus human intuition and willpower. So my next question will be posed to Ms. Sanuja, and that would be your last question for the session. How can students be empowered to take charge of their own learning? What are the ways that they can take charge of their own learning process?
Thank you, Anila. So this question is very similar to what Ms. Rukshana spoke about earlier related to decision making, right? And it's really about empowering learners to take charge of their own learning. So I am not going to say too much about this because Ms. Rukshana has already touched on empowering their decision making, right? With the examples about the classroom, what do you want to learn today? What do you intend or plan to learn today? And things like that. But I do want to talk a little bit about agency and empowerment overall, especially in our kinds of cultures, where students are getting these messages from society, from their families, from their communities as well, regarding what they should be learning, how they should be learning, and what they should be attaining. So ours is a culture in which there's a lot of comparison, right? About marks, about placements, about future pathways, and who got higher than me, who got lower than me. Those kinds of comparisons are very popular in our society. But I really want to look at, how each individual can make their own choices about maybe even the subjects that are more important for them or not, right? So supposing there's a student who wishes to go into the sciences more, and maybe they're feeling bad about the fact that perhaps they're not getting the right marks to proceed in that pathway. So you can try and help them to either understand, okay, how can their teaching, how can their learning be improved, right? So that they can take charge of this improvement process. How can you encourage and motivate and give them ideas on how they can pursue their own development, right, in a particular subject so that they meet the standards that they want to meet, or else, or perhaps alongside that, how can you allow the student to understand that there are other options as well that perhaps they had not considered before. So for example, if they are being told that they should be a doctor all the time, then you can try and understand, okay, in addition to being a doctor, what are some other pathways as well? So really encouraging students to see those broad options, those diverse, various options can be one way to help them to take charge of their own learning, right? So that they always look at it as a way to improve and expand and broaden rather than always being kind of narrow. So that's a way that I think that we can all, whether we are teachers or whether we are just citizens or members of the community, think about ways in which we can empower students to take charge of their own learning. But other methods also are really about choice, right? As Ms. Rukshana mentioned, it's about giving them the space to make those choices about what they wish to learn, how they wish to learn it, and so on. Choice, empowerment to make those decisions, looking at broadening their options as well. And also giving students the tools or sharing, how to use such tools, whether it's technology or whether it's simple strategies, right? So in Kensley's education management and leadership module, there are various subjects that look at pedagogical practices, reflective practices, intercultural practices, all these various strategies, theories, methods, and tools that not only for the teacher, right? So the teacher can kind of learn about it, but share strategies and tools for each student also to incorporate reflection in their own lives, to incorporate how to communicate and collaborate with various other students or other members of the community through intercultural practices and encounters, and so on, right? So it's really about sharing a variety of toolkits, strategies, and methods. Then the student can make the choice. You share these options with the students, and then they can understand, okay, what tools are useful for myself in my own learning journey. So these are just some ways, broadly speaking, that I think that a student can be encouraged to take charge of their own learning. Because ultimately, whether you're teaching a child or whether you're teaching a teenager, they're all going to be adults. And really, we are not just creating, people with subject knowledge or technical skills. We are all trying to kind of foster these future citizens, decision makers in our society. So it's really about empowering them to be in charge of their holistic learning experience, and which in itself is a living experience, because as Ms. Rukshana also mentioned earlier, at the end, it's all about empowering them to be lifelong learners and lifelong improvers of what they're learning and how they're learning it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanuja. Your answer to that question is very relevant to not just teachers, students. I mean, all of us in some form, we are students, we are lifelong learners. So I guess it's relevant to everyone. So yeah, so Ms. Rukshana, coming back to you, I again have one of those important questions. What are some effective ways for teachers to collaborate and communicate with colleagues, administrators, and families to support student success?
Go global. Stay in your seat, right where you are. Use technology and go global. You see, to collaboration is that magic word that you need to be a part of in this 21st century. All right. And because of technology, we are able to go wherever we want to go, meet different people that we wouldn't have ever met. Okay. and collaborate on projects that you can actually, from school to school, university to university, these collaborative projects expand your horizon very early on. Okay. You know, during this food crisis a few months ago, as Sri Lankans, we were facing a food crisis. We are still, we will be in the future. May God protect us. What we need to do is, as a school, we initiated a project called Tomatoes for Tomorrow, right? So we got children to plant these tomato seeds and gave them this timeline of 3 months to 4 months in order to make sure they learn how to care and foster this relationship between, you know, student and this responsibility that they need to take for themselves. They may have tomatoes, but we were just saying, learn how to, you know, grow your own tomato. If you don't need it, give it to someone who will need it. All right. So this whole exercise gave them a lot of opportunity, because these days, children or even adults for that matter, you just get it off the online shop, or you don't even go to a supermarket these days to get this vegetable. They don't even know how this vegetable came about, right? It's that bad when it comes to the present generation. All right. So this whole exercise we began doing. Now, what we did is that we informed, so using technology, again, social media, we informed that this is something that is happening. And we wanted to spread that goodness, that vibe that you have in terms of, you know, the idea of fending for yourself during a crisis. Okay. Now, this was picked up by a few schools that are out of Sri Lanka. Okay. Someone in India, someone in Singapore, someone in Malaysia, and so on and so forth. And they got in touch with us and said, listen, can we also be a part of this project of Tomatoes for Tomorrow? Can we also support y'all where a time of need, where y'all need our support? At the same time, can we use this tool of collaboration to collaborate with your teachers, to collaborate with your classroom, your students? Can we do this as a part of a global project? And it's not something we thought about when we started it, but this is how opportunities open up, right? And then we were having Zoom meetings, Google meetings with another classroom. We went into the classroom. We saw their tomato patch, how they would do it. We shared ideas every month, how things are progressing. And, you know, the students got to meet other students. Teachers felt more confident that they were doing something, you know, the others could relate to as well. And this really takes education to a different level. Okay. And you need to do that. It does. I mean, you need an internet connection. That's all you need. All right. And no matter where you are, we are able to connect with fellow human beings and share these resources, share these ideas. And what actually happened is we are building a global citizenship, right? This global citizenship is very important in an age where, you know, you just want to isolate yourself and sit by yourself and, you know, go on about glorify yourself and so on and so forth. We can't do that. We need to bring in the human side of people and still have hope in that by sharing, by reaching out, not just giving what you have, asking, listen, I need your ideas. This is the same thing I'm struggling with. Just because you show your vulnerable side to someone doesn't mean make you weak. I'll say that again, okay? Just because you show your vulnerable side doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong, that you are reaching out and you don't see anything wrong about it, right? There's this entire, you know, hype about mental health and how, you know, students and teachers are suffering of this mental health, of feeling less, feeling insufficient. All these things can be overcome by using collaboration, right? And communication, because obviously you can't collaborate if you don't communicate. And when you're collaborating, you're communicating in so many different ways, right? So many of those teachers and students may not totally speak English in the way that we may, or we may not be speaking the language as well as they are. But that aside, that doesn't matter. Okay, that doesn't matter. Find a way, even if it's sign language, so what? Find a way to communicate, right? Feel good about the intention behind and what you're doing it. And that way, it's way more easier to you cultivate or foster this whole relationship, because we all need it, isn't it? Like Sanuja also was talking, the importance of bringing things together, people together, and fostering these relationships are the only way humans will survive this day and age. It really is, even though that is what we are avoiding, like people and connections, and because so much of judgments are there. Judging is something, bullying is something. Everybody has something to say about someone else all the time, right? So make that saying a positive one. Take consciously, let your words that escape your lips, let it be positive. So this collaboration gives you that understanding to be larger than yourself, right? And expansion actually helps you also clear all the clutter in your mind and look for ways to become bigger and bigger than just me and myself and I sort of thing, right? So it's like a magic wand. Use it. No matter where you are, just use it. And it really has a lot of hope for ourselves. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really, really glad we made time on a Sunday morning. I know this is the last thing we'd probably want to do, just sit back and chill. But there is goodness in investing time in learning, until we, our time on earth is over. Just keep seeking to learn, and then it will go a long way. It's such a pleasure, Sanuja, to be here with you and like-minded people sharing these thoughts. Spread the vibe also. So it's good that Kensley took this opportunity to do this, because education really can make change, and I think we all need to put our hands together, come together to do this. Thank you so much.
Yes, teacher. So take that magic wand, just as Ms. Rukshana said. And yeah, so let's foster a positive classroom culture. So I hope the session has been fruitful and you've been taking notes on all that Ms. Rukshana and Ms. Sanuja has been saying. And I hope it was insightful. So aspiring teachers, people who are already in the teaching profession, or people who are hoping to go into the teaching profession. So these are all lessons for you to take. And thank you, Ms. Sanuja and Ms. Rukshana, for taking time off your busy schedule and being here with us today. Thank you for all your contributions and drawing on your personal experiences. You've made the discussion quite interesting. So thank you for that. Thank you for everything.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so before wrapping up, maybe we could go in for a quick question and answer session from the participants. So if anyone has any questions, now would be the time to voice them out. You can maybe drop your questions into the chat box. Yes, we welcome questions from the audience. Okay, so I have got a question from one of the participants. Can I have the whole session to watch again? Because I was too late to join. So the recording will be available on our social media. So like it will be posted for everyone to watch. Any questions? Any questions for Ms. Sanuja or Ms. Rukshana? Okay, so we have a question from Godwin Iswan. People are facing a lot of quandaries in the country. How can we build up positive tenacity among the students? So, yeah. Who would like to answer the question? Ms. Sanuja, Ms. Rukshana?
Sanuja, you want to take that?
Sure, sure. So thank you, Ms. Rukshana. So looking at the question, people are facing a lot of quandaries. How can we build up? I like the word positive tenacity among the students, because tenacity is really about kind of holding on to something, holding on to some kind of strengths, right? And I think depending on who you ask this question, they will give you a different answer. What I will say, kind of personally, what the approach I would take is, you know, a lot of students are probably hearing constantly around them, no hope, you have to leave, you have to leave. So you can kind of share with them the options and the scenarios, right? Make them like empower them to imagine and enact on the situations and scenarios such as present moment and future, right? So what they can look at is, if they're constantly hearing no hope, you have to go, we have to go. Okay. So I think you share with the student options so that again they can make their own decisions, right? So instead of telling them you have to go or you have to stay, show them the options regarding what they can do now for a future that they would like, right? So on a personal individual basis, how can they kind of be empowered to keep strong, right? So whether it's through their personal practices or their kind of school experiences, creating that kind of positive environment, but also sharing with them these options, right? So for example, if the student wishes to leave the country, you can show them, okay, here are some possible pathways through which you can achieve this, right? So if the child is as young as 5 years old, this approach is not going to work. But you know, if they are, you know, teenagers or a bit older, even university students, you can share these options. But you can also share the options of maybe inspiring and motivating stories about people who are remaining in the country, who are contributing to kind of growing the local ecosystem, right? People who are building up businesses, somehow surviving in these times, people who are starting even their own schools, people who are teaching, who are contributing back to society in that way. So I think it's really important to share these options, these varieties with students so that they can make their own decisions, right? In terms of tenacity, I think really it's about doing things now to benefit later on. So continuing to practice those principles and those methods of behaving and learning um, in order to kind of strengthen yourself for the present moment as well as the future. Thank you. We have some more questions.
Ms. Rukshana, we have a question for you. And this is from Ramzia. Hi, Ms. Rukshana spoke about using technology. Using technology to cope with never-ending tasks. Could you give an example?
Yes, as I mentioned, there are various. One is the entire Google tools. I mean, I'm familiar with those, so I'm able to speak about the fact that you can use Google tools in order to collaborate. So if you're working, I told you, let the voice be heard. The students' voices need to be heard. Ideas need to be heard. So if you are using a platform where it is online or virtual learning, using this, it's like in the classroom, you'll have this large paper and get each of them to contribute to into a box, but the main concept is written in the middle, right? So that sort of thing is happening in, digitally. So you get everyone to contribute. You know, during the pandemic, some of the really quiet students in the classroom are the ones who flourished when it came to virtual learning. That's because through technology, when we were doing, their thoughts and ideas came in terms of, you know, text, then actually them speaking out was a challenge to them. But here, because it was done virtually at a distance, they contributed more, and it was really good to see them flourishing. Okay, so collaborative tool, that's one. The other one is try applications that have this gamification feature, like Kahoot, if you take, or, you know, Ed Puzzle. You know, those days, I mean, usually a comprehension passage that we give, let them read the passage and answer 5 questions, right? Here, you use a video, right? Every 30 seconds, if certain things happen, you're able to go and insert a question with regards just to that 30 seconds video and get the students to answer. So the engagement level is higher because you're pausing frequently or consistently and getting them to stop, think, answer, and then keep going. So applications like Edpuzzle, Kahoot, and numerous, okay, there are numerous applications out there where it is also giving teachers free certification, like you do bronze, silver, and then gold, right? It's a matter of investing about an hour for each level to watch those videos, learn how to do it, self-learn, self-direct, learn it, and then acquire your digital badges as well. So in your CV, also, you're able to flaunt your digital badges. Why? Because these applications are promoting using these features in education, right? So these are some of the examples, just a small number that I've mentioned. Like I said, that itself is a workshop that we need to invest time to learn. What are these education technologies? How is it going to reduce my task of teaching or the back-end work? How can I automate certain things that I don't need to really sit and do? These sort of things itself is a workshop. I mean, in Sri Lanka itself, we have, like I said, I'm familiar with Google. So we've had Google innovators, Google Google trainers entirely that were qualified through the investing of this time. And my own 3 colleagues are pioneering this area. That's because, again, even when you're isolated in your room where it's a lockdown, at this time is when they went and acquired these certifications. And that's because you need to see where you need to adapt and go and invest that. Right. So these are some of the areas. Like I said, if we can have another session, we more than can share more. I mean, I need to show you how to go through grading apps. I need to show you how you can. So this will give you more information than actually me verbally telling you about it.
Thank you, Ms. Rukshana, for answering Ramzia's question. So yeah, I'd love to ask one more question. Anyone else? Someone wants to go for the final question?
I think I'd like to just add to what Sanuja was saying. We must understand the grass is not always green on the other side. Okay, here in Sri Lanka, when there is a need, you become creative. When there is a need, you problem solve, and then innovation happens. So there is opportunity here. We need to work together, put our heads together, and see how we can really come out and flourish still. I know it's hard, okay? The political scenario, the economic scenario, and so on, it's very hard, but not all of us can just take off like that. This is our country, isn't it? We were born here, we were bred here, we know what it is like, and our memories, our childhood memories, our roots are here. So we must understand that we can still prosperously get out of this as long as we keep persevering, because we know some of us are still struggling. We give up everything that we have here and go abroad. And that's really costly too. And that means it's a huge risk also, right? I'm not saying if you get the opportunity not to do so, but I'm also saying don't be miserable or don't lose hope that you are the one left behind. There really is something positive about that status. Okay, take it and live it and come out of it. I'm sure our happiness is about contentment, right? So like Sanuja said, yes, you evaluate. It depends on your individuality, what your needs are, what your family wants, and a lot of things are there at the end of the day. But don't think that it is all lost. We really can come out of this as long as we have hope, we have a say, we try as much as possible. That should be our motto. Okay, never stop striving in this situation.
Thank you, Ms. Rukshana, for those parting words of wisdom. Ms. Sanuja, would you like to add anything to that?
I think I would just like to thank everyone for this opportunity. I would like to thank all the attendees who have been with us from the beginning, and for their interest in education. I would like to thank Kensley Graduate School for organizing this. And of course, I would like to thank Ms. Rukshana, who is on our teaching panel, for the Education Management and Leadership course, for her words of wisdom today as well, and very inspiring and motivating as well. Thank you.
And thank you once again to the two of you for taking time out of your schedule and being here with us today. So if there's something else, just contact us through our social media platforms.